Okay, my close. Tell me when it's live.
Yeah, like
Good evening, folks, and welcome to yet another session of Startup Buzz. Thanks to all of you. We are now on our 64th session of Startup Buzz, which I think most of happens every Thursday, 5 p.m. Sharp. You can actually set your watches, as I keep saying. And this time we have, a very interesting conversation lined up between Mithun Shah, who's our guest of the day, and Pooja Acharya, who's going to moderate the session. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Pooja to introduce yourself and introduce Mithun as well. So over to you both.
Great. Good evening, everyone. This is Pooja Acharya. I'm a patents and trademarks attorney and practicing lawyer. So I welcome you all on behalf of CII. And we have a very special guest today who's an entrepreneur, an innovator, and a visionary himself. Please welcome Mr. Mithun Shah, CEO of Anabio. So we welcome you. So, Mr. Shah, we are really curious to know more about you and your journey. So, to begin with, could you please throw some light on your journey and what led you become an entrepreneur?
thanks, Pooja. Thanks, Ravikant, for having me here. It's an honor to be here. Jumping right in, what led me to be an entrepreneur? I've said this in the past as well to other people. Uh, Sometimes you have an incident or an event in your life that changes things, and it shapes the way you are. Unfortunately, in my case, that's never been the case for me. From time in memory, I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've had that clarity of thought from the very start. I don't know why, what, or how, but that's been my mission, and that's made life a lot easier and simpler. I don't have second thoughts, or I don't have why don't I do this, or why don't I go back to a corporate gig or something. It's always been build products, build companies. So I'm really happy doing that, and there's just been a clarity of purpose for me from from whenever I could remember as a kid. So, and I'm a third generation entrepreneur. My grandfather started out. My dad's been in the business. I'm not in family business or anything like that, but that's been a very clear thing. That, like, I keep joking or telling people that if founding a company was similar to smuggling, I would be a smuggler. I mean, I'm not doing it because it's fashionable to be a founder today. I'm just doing it because that's the only thing I know.
That's truly inspiring. And what inspired you to start Anabio?
It's been a long journey to be to reaching to Anabio. From I've had the clarity that I want to be a founder, but never had the clarity of what kind. That I lacked. I did many things, and I was very clear at the early on that I don't want to get into business for the sake of doing a business. I didn't want to be in anything that's commoditized, where the discussion was on pricing. This discussion needs to be on performance. So for me, it was always technology-driven businesses. That's what I wanted to do. So right after engineering, I moved to the US. I did my master's in material sciences and textiles, did a lot of research, and then wanted to learn how technology is implemented. So I spent about 12 years working for a company in the US, heading R&D in medical devices, doing that for an extended period of time. And in that journey, I learned a lot of things on how to take an idea from a napkin, to take it to a lab, to a prototype, to actually commercializing it. So I've had the luxury of going through that journey. I wish the journey was shorter, but it is what it is. So I did that, and then I tried many different things, from medical devices to solar to biotech, and then ended up doing Anabio in its current avatar. So it's not clear mission saying I'm going to do this, but it's actually stumbling upon and learning things, and getting to where we are today.
Great. So, for our guests, how would you describe the company in simpler terms to someone who's hearing about Anabio for the first time?
Interesting. Yeah, so I don't have one answer actually. It depends on who's asking the question. If it's a climate tech person, an investor asking the question, we are a climate tech company. That's what we do. If it's a deep tech material sciences background guy, say, hey, we're a deep tech material science company. If it's a customer who's asking that question, we make sanitary pads, we make diapers, we make diagnostic devices. That's what we tell them. It depends on who's asking the question. Yeah, that's it depends on who asks the question.
So for
But
the
we're
large
all of what we said, all of it is true. But we are a products company. Sustainability is our core, and we love to build products that are useful for our audience.
Great. So, few of our guests are willing to know what is the core material science or deep science innovation behind Anabio as we are introducing the company, and what makes it so difficult to replicate.
So there's multiple facets to this. Actually, it's very interesting and a tough question. So in terms of our core material science, what we have done is, so we've built a flushable platform. For the audience who's not familiar with our work, it's a flushable platform. And our first product we're going to launch very soon is a sanitary pad that a lady can use, throw it in the toilet, flush it, and it just goes away. We eliminate the need for disposal, and it's biodegradable. So we spent about 8 years building that product. No revenue, just core R&D. And we failed a lot. We failed through thousands of prototypes. We've been to 50 or 100 plus factories across the world, over 10 different countries. So it's been a very difficult journey to get to where we are. And we believe we currently have achieved is not going to be that easy. But we protect our innovation by doing many things. One is IP. We have a few patents to protect ourselves. We have trade secrets, and also we protect how we manufacture these things and where we manufacture these also in a very secretive way. So multiple safeguards we have to protect ourselves, but over time, as the product succeeds, people will copy. So the logic should be to out innovate competition before they can catch up. So that's the second part of the answer. The first part is we use a lot of natural materials to make our biodegradable products. It's mostly cellulose, plant, and wood based that we use. Have I answered all the questions here?
Yeah. So the other question was related to the to what you've just answered, that whether a new scientific discovery is worth commercializing or no.
Not all scientific discoveries.
Yes.
I wouldn't use the word worth commercializing. Sometimes they're early. Sometimes there's just not enough of a market. There's many challenges that come in the way. When it came to Anabio and our flushable concept, one interesting thing that we did is once we had the idea clear, we didn't know how to build it. We spent a few months in hiring a third-party research firm to do market research and figure out if there is commercial interest in what we're doing. Only once we've figured that out did we go back to the lab and start building. So that's how we solved what we believe is innovation and commercial interest, and how can you marry them.
Certainly. This leads me to the next question, that balancing innovation with affordability and accessibility, especially for Indian market, if I may ask, because it's rather an essential commodity, any menstrual products is. So how are you working on that?
Boy, that's the tougher question. Affordability is pivotal. India is very, I mean,
It's
India is considered to be, it is considered a cost-sensitive market, but we've shown facets where cost is immaterial. I mean, there's certain places where we just spend very generously, and in a lot of places we don't. And once things are commoditized and it's not a prestige kind of a thing, people want it to be at the right price point. So for us, that's been a challenge. So we took it in two approaches. First is we didn't think about cost. We just built the product. We said, let's solve one problem. And the second is, once we built that, we built a second stack. for manufacturing, where we're able to take the cost of our technology that we've developed and then bring that cost down. And so that's exactly what we've done. And now we're working on implementing our second stack, our manufacturing stack, to bring the product into an affordable range. We'll probably still be a little pricey compared to the mass premium, but we'll still be within the affordable range. And that will be a very good start. So building something that is affordable I mean, it almost guarantees success if you can do that, and if you always strive for it. At least in our market. Now, if you're selling a premium product like a Gucci bag, then it's a different segment and a different thought process completely. But if you want to be in the FMCG and consumer goods category, then I think the lower your price, bigger the market for sure. So for us, our answer is build the tech and figure out a way to reduce the cost, which we have kind of done, and now we're going to implement that.
Okay. And that's leading me to next question, that who is the first customer for a deep tech company like Anabio, and how do you convince the customer to adopt something based on emerging technology? Maybe here we are discussing about some industries who would be interested in being associated with you for manufacturing purposes or something.
Sorry, Pooja, can you repeat that question? I didn't quite follow.
So the question that one of our guests is asking is, who is the first customer for a deep tech company like Anabio? And how do you convince a customer to adopt something based on an emerging technology?
How do you adopt something for an emerging technology? So for us, at least from a first customer perspective, in this particular case, it was very easy. My wife was my first customer. The problem statement came from there. We still disagree on who came up with the solution, but as long as it's within the family, I think we're okay. But she was a very ardent believer in solving this problem of disposability. So I didn't have to convince anybody at home as to what I was doing at work. So solving my first customer is very easy for us. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted with the emojis and the questions on the side. What is the part of the question, Pooja?
So it was, how do you convince a customer to adopt something which is based on the emerging technology?
So we did it the opposite way. I mean, first I had a customer at home. Then we did a lot of consumer survey to see if there is interest in it. Now, the funny part is, out of the 300 women we spoke to, not one person mentioned disposability as a problem. They wanted a softer pad or a larger pad or something of that sort, but nobody said disposability was a problem. But when we brought up that question at the very end, saying, "Is this something that would interest you?" Their eyes would light up. So that's when we knew we had found an unmet need, and that was enough for us to say, "All right, let's build something here where nobody's looking at, and then people will follow." So there is a leap of faith for sure from a founder saying, "There's my gut feeling that this will work." So there's no 100% guarantee. I mean, if you're setting up a solar power plant, then fine. Somebody will buy the power. With an emerging tech, there is an element of risk, and one needs to be comfortable with that element of risk. It's okay. From my perspective, this excites me, actually, that uncertainty, saying nobody's done this is exciting, this is sexy, let's try it. So there's risk, but it's also exciting.
Yeah, this Anabio is a company which is backed by a lot of IP, so of course charges will be secondary, because subsequently in time, maybe over after a decade or so, once you start licensing and once your customers are adopted to your technology or products, then I believe the cost part will be taken care of later on. Yeah. So before I go further in our communication, there are a few more questions that I would like to bring in. One is seems very interesting. Many deep tech startups struggle to cross the valley of death between prototype and the commercial scale. How is Anabio tackling this?
Yeah, we had our own journey on this, and fantastic question. The value of death is very real. We stare at that abyss every single day. Um, First is if you're a deep tech company, there are government grants like the government of Karnataka has it, central government has it, so you can get some money to start off with. But outside of that, venture funding is available, but not as much as one would like. So it is incredibly difficult. It is incredibly it almost feels like a thankless job, to be honest. So if you can um, incorporate abroad as well, and if you have that possibility, it's not a bad idea. This is strictly a founder to founder discussion, saying, guys, why do you want to take on more burden than there already is? Now, coming to Anabio, we did it very differently. We actually moved from the US to India to set this up. So the way I did it is, in fact, we had a term sheet available to us when we moved, or within the first month of moving to India itself. We decided not to take it. We didn't like the terms or whatever be the reasons, but we decided not to take it. But we were very happy that we had the validation. So we put in our life savings into it. But then as we ran along and we realized the runway needed to be longer, we actually set up another business to fund this business. So for us, in a way, I think I can say as an entrepreneur, we can figure out how to generate revenue. That may not be the revenue I wanted or in the for the product I wanted, but we still were able to do that. And so we generate revenue. So far, we've generated enough revenue to fund our research, and the government's also funded us to a tune of few crores. So a combination of both has helped us to get this far. But now going forward, we will raise a little bit of money to set up our manufacturing.
And then specifically at what stage should a deep science startup start thinking seriously about unit economics?
See, this is if you're a D2C company, you should start thinking about unit economics on day one, not for a deep tech company. The technology itself is so difficult. The probability of you actually building the tech itself is so difficult. You start looking at unit economics. This is strictly my personal view. Solve the tech first. You cannot have everything lined up on day one. It's not going to happen, and I think it's just asking for too much. But there is certain caveats here, and this is coming from a 22-year-old fresh out of college or a 25-year-old fresh PhD just getting in versus somebody who's coming from the industry like I had the opportunity to. So what I feel is when you start a little later and you have a lot of industry experience, you make a lot. I mean, I would say not a lot, but quite a few mistakes. You understand how the industry works, and those guardrails help you with the network and just the luxury of making fewer mistakes. Doesn't guarantee success, but fewer mistakes.
So, how different is fundraising for a deep tech startup compared to a conventional, consumer startup or any other conventional business for that technologies?
I think it's a lot better today than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But that said, deep tech funding in India is limited. There is an ecosystem, there is money, but it is not as much as required. Not at the valuations required, but there's a market dynamic at play. But there is a possibility. If you're passionate, this is your calling, there is money available.
And
We
maybe
haven't raised it ourselves, but others have, and we know enough people who have.
yeah, so maybe success stories like Anabio will help people understand and believe that yes, they will get resources if their product or if their technology is really solving a problem and will be of some innovative advances in the community. So
Yes.
yeah, so what do investors generally need to understand before investing in a deep science company?
I think if you're looking at early stage investment, I think it's a punt. Most investors take. They need to know you. They need to like you, and if they like you, you have a much better chance. So how you communicate and how you position yourself is very important. And second, and often not recognized enough fact is timing. Timing, luck, whatever you want to call it. There are just times when certain segments are hot, and you need to invest in them at that time. Manufacturing from a VC parlance is not something VCs like. They don't want to get into capex heavy businesses. But if you look at it today, at least if you look at silicon chip manufacturing or any of those kind of things, again, there's a lot of interest now. Things change. So if you time it well, it's a lot easier, but we don't control that.
Now I can see our questions moving from fundings to the commercial side. So the next question we are getting is, with the commercial pad launch expected soon, what does the go-to market strategy look like? Should it be direct to customer or partner with other players, other industry people in this space, or manufacturing for them?
So we've looked at all of this, and quite honestly, we're figuring out our playbook as well. And we're trying to do it in two different ways. First and foremost is, given the cost and the price sensitivity of the market, we very strongly believe that we have to manufacture the product to be able to give it at the right price points. So we have to be the manufacturers. Now, with the manufacturing setup and the capex required, we may not be able to scale and justify that manufacturing asset on day one. So we may be forced to do some white labeling or contract manufacturing as well for other players for different product segments. It doesn't have to be the flushable. It can be biodegradable. It could be regular product. So we're open to doing those for others to keep the lights on. Again, that's how we think on saying, how do we keep the sustainable? How do we generate cash flow and use that cash to reinvest into brand building? So internal accruals support our brand building. So part of the business would be contract manufacturing for others, and part of the business would be to do a D2C quick commerce play and then go into distribution as you scale. So we're going to do both.
Okay. And what changes when you move from producing grams of materials in a lab for an R&D purposes or so, to producing tons of those material commercially? There's a different calculation maybe altogether. So how does that?
Absolutely. And it is incredibly difficult. And trust me, I've traveled from Ahmedabad, Vapi, Mumbai, Pune, all the way down to Bangalore and everywhere in between, including Calcutta, Delhi, to figure out players who can take our idea from the lab to some pilot scale to a commercial scale. It was incredibly difficult. So then we moved out of India, we went to Europe, we did some pilot scale there, moved from few grams to few kilos, then to a few tons. So we've had our journey. It took us our time. We tried to short circuit it and do the Indian jugaad as much as we could, but in our case, we didn't succeed, and we had to take the step gradually from TRL 2 to TRL 7, 8 as we were where we are today.
Then there's a question coming from someone who's introducing themselves as a manufacturing company. So it is, how you consider a product is a deep tech. They are in steel slag fertilizing manufacturing company. It will help them enhance farm yield and help steel industries to reduce their carbon footing. So what is that considered as a deep tech, or how do you guide them? Maybe that should be the question.
See, and then this is entirely my narrow perspective of how life is, and it doesn't speak for everybody. There are two facets to any business. One is the back end, and another is the front end. The front end is what faces the customer. The customers don't care if you're deep tech or shallow tech, or it doesn't matter. What are you giving them? You're giving them a product. That is about it. And is the product useful for them or not? The deep tech part comes on the back end. Is what does it really take to build that technology? How difficult is it? Has anybody done this before? How complex is it? Do you have IP around it? How do you build it? The deeper you got to go, deeper the technology, and the quicker you can make it, it's not deep. I mean, that's a question you need to answer. And honestly, and I think Pooja had asked this question: how do you answer customers of what kind of a company you are? And I said, depends on who's asking the question, right? If it's a climate investor, we call ourselves a climate tech company. We call ourselves a deep tech company. We call a sustainability company, because it depends on who wants to hear it. But we are a science-based company. That doesn't change. That's about it. So if you have the science in it, you're a deep tech company.
Great. And how important is the access to right supplier and manufacturing partner for your business? I mean, that can be a question for any businesses.
But these are, I'm guessing the person who asked this question has some experience here, because these are all very, very good questions.
Yeah.
Having a runway in a deep tech startup is very important. So you can at peace build that technology. But at the same time, having access to that technology is also very important. And in our case, we have a very strong advisory network globally because of my experience before starting Anabio. And those advisors were able to unlock or open doors for us that gave me access. You want to go to Spain, I can tell you the right companies to go to. You want to go to Germany, I can tell you that. You want to go to Italy, I can tell you. You go to US, you want to go to China, I can tell you who to go to or who to talk to. In the third degree connection, I can have that door open in my domain. That's a very big superpower that people don't usually talk about. So, sir, who was asking that question, or ma'am, this is fantastic. I mean, if you have that access, it's a big superpower.
True. And is Anabio looking forward to also come with similar technologies in diapers, like for babies and for seniors?
Absolutely, that's our phase 2. So we start with the smallest problem statement, and then you increase the size as we go along. So diapers is step 2. Absolutely, that's why we call it a flushable platform, so we can accelerate that to different products.
Yeah. So another question which I also wanted to ask you is, what does a healthy unit economics model look like for a deep science startup such as Anabio?
So here you're moving away from science, and nobody cares. What people care is, what does the consumer care for? And it's $1 million question, my friend. I don't know the answer to it as well. In the sense, if I sell a pad at 30% premium on top of an existing one, will it sell? And if it can sell, how much? Or if I'm at the same price of the current existing product, how much will I sell? These are questions nobody actually knows an answer to, and we struggle with often. And pricing is and market sentiment analysis is an art in itself, and great companies and founders are built on that basis. So we've taken the easy way out, saying, I don't want to take the risk of being too expensive. Let's find not the cheapest, but the closest possible way to get to market price and hit the market and see if it can scale. That's the strategy I want to go after, because I want to be able to scale at a certain rate and with lower burn or whatever it be. But unit economics, you need to be profitable. Don't burn money to get there. I'm not saying that's not a good way to do it. It's not how Anabio is built, and that's not in our DNA.
Great. So what I believe is, till the time you're providing a solution to a problem, your customers are going to pay.
Yes.
Whatever range. So that is more or less another question that we are having. Are customers paying primarily for the material itself or for the performance improvement it enables?
I think customers pay for two things. One is, A, are you solving their problem? B, the perception of the product. You can sell an Android for 10,000 rupees and it'll sell all day, and you can sell an iPhone for 1 lakh rupees, and it's your perception in your mind saying, hey, I'm buying an iPhone, right? It's a perception. It's both the products do almost a similar thing, but at the core, they're to be solving a problem. In our case, a regular sanitary pad will do what it's supposed to do. Our product has to do the exact same thing. We have a layer on top that we help make their life a lot easier, but I don't think anybody pays us for our materials. They pay us for the problem we solve and the perception we create, saying, are we considered a low-end product, or are we considered a high-end product? Are we aspirational, or are we just another Me Too? So those are the things believe it or not, run through all our minds every single day.
So it's
But
basically
it's not for the raw material that goes into the product.
So it's basically for the convenience that a product will give into someone's life.
In our particular case, it is the convenience, yes.
And one more question here, which is relevant, is how long does it take to move a customer from technical trial to a commercial order? Like, I think Anabio would have planned it, like, or this should be, there could be a timeline by now.
Given that I'm the expert here, we had planned for 2 years and we are 8 years into the journey now. So it just tells you how little we all know. No, it is the sooner the better. Now, if I had to redo what I have done and learn from my mistakes, I'm pretty positive we could have achieved this in half the time. But it's an expensive learning for us. So our next generation of products will not take anywhere close to this.
Okay. So maybe that's how you would have modified your technology in ways like you initially have not considered, but after reviews and maybe technical inputs, you would have modified the product during the trials.
I think there was a question early on. Yeah. We got a little distracted on how do we do the assessment. So one of the things we did is we did a lot of consumer testing. Every single variation we come up with, we do consumer testing. We have 20, 30, 40, 50 women test our product and give us feedback. That allows us to solve a lot of problems quite early in the game. The other thing we did is a lot of other companies in the world have tried this before us and failed. We've talked to them before we started out. So we understood their pain points, and thankful to those founders or those senior technical guys at different companies who were open enough to talk to us and share their journey and their failure points. So we're able to learn from those lessons and build on that. Feel free to just pick up the phone, talk to competition and people. Otherwise, you'll be surprised how much people are willing to share.
Yeah. So such customer requirements sometimes, do they push science in a completely new direction? Like R&D provisions which were not there, which were not taken into consideration earlier. But because some customer has initiated, I think this is the whole concept how Anabio has come up with a flushable platform.
It is possible that a consumer can push you in a new direction, and this is where perseverance versus pivoting comes into play, and you as a founder have to balance it. I would say we've been fairly adamant saying our consumer doesn't know what they're talking about, because if we go and ask them what they need, and which we did, they said they want a bigger pad, they want a softer pad, they want a more absorbent pad. Nobody said they wanted a flushable pad. And it's what Henry Ford had said, right? If he had asked his customers what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. Nobody would have said they wanted a car. So to a certain degree, you have to rely on your customers, but for the most part, it is the bet founder takes. So our bet was saying disposability is a problem. If we solve it, our consumers will come, and that's what we're going to prove. But in that journey, we've learned a lot where consumers have given us feedback saying this doesn't work or that doesn't work. And then we have to tweak the product or the science behind it, make sure it serves the purpose that it's meant for.
Yeah. We have in our chat, maybe we'll send you personally the contact details. We have one Burberry Baby Products Private Limited who are into clothes, manufacturing of clothes, diaper and all. So maybe CII would like to connect you and we'll forward his contact details.
Happy to talk.
To you. Yeah. So what advantages does India offer to a deep science company that may not be obvious to other international investors?
The world is a much smaller place than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. For most investors, it's all obvious. They understand what are the advantages and disadvantages in most geographies. India, thanks to the diaspora around the world, is known to be scientifically strong, mathematically advanced, or at least good enough brain power to solve problems. But what happens is that effort is concentrated in a few universities in India or considered to be moving abroad. There's enough and more brain power here in India to build deep tech products. The ecosystem may not be as developed as you would have in the US or Europe, even China now. So it is. I think investors understand. The investors, for the most part, choose not to come to India. They understand their advantages, but they preferred staying in their domain because of various risks and so on and so forth. But for the most part, investors do know, at least the seasoned ones know, and there are various ways to address that. I mean, you just incorporate a domicile in Europe or US, and then you can still have your back-end innovation, and you can try to cherry pick advantages of both the continents, and those are possibilities people have successfully implemented.
Great. So can a startup sometimes create measure of their you say assets by manufacturing expertise or through patents?
Absolutely. Very deep question. And I am one of those people who agree with that statement. You can protect yourself by patents. You can protect yourself by trade secrets. You can protect yourself by your manufacturing powers. All of these are moats. Uh, can you build a business based on just manufacturing, just IP, or just trade secrets? It depends. On the business, on the market, on the product. Sometimes you use all three, sometimes you use one of the three. That is sufficient. There are people who build businesses just because they're connected to the government. They know how to build and how to build that relationship. And that itself is a moat in itself. There are people who know how to deploy technology. That's a moat in itself. So manufacturing, absolutely. I think manufacturing is underrated and its time is yet to come. And we're probably looking at its time coming for India in the next 20 years, starting now.
Sure. And how do you handle customers who want proof of ROI before they are willing to invest in testing the technology?
So actually in our case, right, we're very lucky where we work on a flushable platform or a dissolvable or a disintegration. So we can demonstrate that very well. So one of the challenges with scientific community is we're too much into the science and talk about science, but we need to know how to sell our science, and that is very important. So one of the things that we did is we built something called a flush lab. We're one of those weird people who actually have a toilet, a commode that's completely transparent. We have the entire plumbing that's transparent. So you can, from the drop to when it gets to the STP, you can see the whole journey with your eyes. And we do a lot of work on recording this and getting videographers to come and shoot it from different angles and communicate that message to our audience, be it our investors or consumers, saying, "Don't trust us, trust yourself." So that's how we've solved our problem, because we can visually demonstrate it. But what proof of ROI, return on investment, before they're willing to invest in testing the technology? That's a tough one. Yeah. Some people will love the idea. Okay, let me rephrase it. My view is, when you interview a candidate or you interview a founder to invest, in the first few seconds or minutes, you already made up your mind that you like that person or not. And then you spend rest of the time convincing yourself, saying you're right or wrong. That's how it works. So in most of the investment cases, they've liked you and they're trying for every reason to justify their liking. But in many cases, they keep asking for more data because they're not sure, and they're just looking for more and more reasons to say no. Sometimes it's just never going to be enough. And in deep tech, so if you're doing something in cancer research, how are you going to show them ROI on a technology you've not even built? It has to come from a conviction of the investor and their belief in the founder or the founding team.
And is it better for a deep tech company to scale cautiously or raise significant capital and then scale quickly?
It entirely depends on the founder's DNA, number one, and the nature of the business. And I can tell you, we've scaled cautiously. We have refused to raise capital until very recently. So, but that's part of my DNA and how I operate. You need to know what kind of a founder you are. And if you have access to the capital and you can do this slowly, why not? equity is an expensive capital raise. So debt is always cheaper, equity is always expensive. So please tread cautiously there.
Very well put. So, I would like to learn more from your personal experiences. So, how do you make important decisions when there are uncertainty in the outcome in the situation?
There's two frameworks I have. One is your network of friends. Right? You need to have a strong ecosystem when you can pick up the phone and talk to certain people who have been in your seat before. That is very, very valuable. The power of network is just phenomenal. So having the right people to talk to is significant. The second is how you handle uncertainty and how do you handle fear. That's something, again, a founder needs to manage internally. For me, how do I handle uncertainty? I just I think of it as a puzzle, and then I break it up into pieces, saying this I can do, this I can do, this I really don't know. I need to get help there, or I just try to get the fear out of the uncertainty and then attack it, because fear makes me play it very defensively, and you make the wrong decisions because of the fear. So I try to eliminate the fear and then look at the puzzles and how I can handle it. And the third that experience has taught me is sometimes procrastination is good. Just let the problem sit for a little while, and with time, maybe it goes away by itself, or you just learn a little more and you're able to handle it. But don't try to take the problem head on at that moment.
I think that should help most of our guests and audience. One of the questions we are having is taking sustainable deep tech products to globally, like from India, is very commanding. How do you handle large conglomerates in the market? I don't think there's any competition to Anabio as of date.
There is, so I'm not sure if the question was large conglomerates from, are they your customers or are they your competitors?
Competitors, basically.
So we've not had a large or a small competitor coming in and trying to kill us, if I may. And I don't remember who this was, but this is one of the central beliefs that I've built over my last 8-year journey. And it's not natural to me, but I've learned this. Startups, there's a high probability that you would die by suicide versus murder, meaning it's a mistake that we make that will kill the company versus somebody else coming and sabotaging us, or competition overtaking us. And in our case, we've seen this. We've been very vocal and public about what we're building. We've never kept it quiet, saying, hey, what if somebody copies? And the thesis is anybody who's in the business already or in the market, they already have a belief system and a product that they're already working on. It's very difficult for them to let go of that belief system and work on something so much complex. In our case, it's complex enough that nobody wants to try it. Everybody we've spoken to in the competition said, hey, we've tried this or we've looked at it, but they tried for a few months and said, you know what, we have better things to do. And we've not been worried. We talk to our competition very freely. We as Anabio are not too worried.
And then there's another question, which I believe is majorly targeting to are all kinds of waste, may it be a diaper or a menstrual pad, is it going to be like flushable, or will it be made of same material or something else? Because both products are different. What changes that a decision for a product worn for hours by a baby and a menstrual product?
Very different products, very different size, and the scope of the problem is much bigger, right, when it comes to diapers. Hence, we've started with pads. When we started out, we didn't think flushable diapers was possible. So our entire technology stack that we have is for pads, not for diapers. But in our journey of failure over 8 years, we've stumbled upon ideas that we believe will make us launch flushable diapers. They will be different from what you see in pads. The tech will be different. but it allows us to create that because now we have this experience. Wouldn't have thought this in a million years. I'm a big believer that that was not possible, but now we stand corrected. But to answer the question on industrial, biodegradable, compostable, our products are ultimately biodegradable, not readily biodegradable, but ultimate biodegradable, but biodegradable without the need for composting. Our pads, diapers, time will tell us. We're trying to go with the same concept, but if we need to do composting, we can discuss that. We're not ready with. We haven't gone that far yet, if I may.
Great. And it's such an interesting session going on. I'm sure all our listeners are getting benefited. However, we have certain limitation of time. I would request CII to have you again for one more session. But before closing, I would like to have a rapid fire round with you. So we'll quickly get more insights from you. So one word to describe your entrepreneurship journey.
Lucky.
Great. A business leader you admire.
There's not one, there's many, but the one that's at the top for me, and it's a fanboy kind of thing, would be Elon Musk on how he's taken tech and scaled it up. That would be my big moment.
The best advice you have ever received.
This is a fun one. I've received a lot of advice, and unfortunately, what I've realized is I'm very adamant, and I haven't taken that very well. So the learning for me is to take advice better. What happens is you come with your DNA. You're very. That's where the persistence or the perseverance and the grit comes in. But I do reach out to a lot of people, bits and pieces and all of that. But I can't say he's my best friend or this is my best advice. That's not happening.
Okay. And one mistake that taught you an important lesson.
No, that's we've lived this journey long enough. There's not we make mistakes every day. We just are happy we're alive to tell that story. I just wish we were faster, and it wasn't that long. That's the one thing I would love to change if possible.
And one habit contributed most to your success.
Perseverance, without a doubt. That's the only differentiator.
Great. It is so inspiring to talk with you, Mr. Shah. I'm sure all our listeners have benefited from the discussions and the chat that we had. And thank you so much for joining us at CII. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, everybody. And I'm sure I've not answered all the questions, but please send them over. CII would do my very best to answer them, and wish everybody all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're still there, Mithun?
Hey, hi. Still here, yeah?
Good. So Anant is just going to take the bite from you.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Anant, over to you. I'm stepping out because Anant.
Yes, I have ended the session. You can record.